Matthew from Manchester, England. I watched last week's 205 Live. Now, this is a question I had gotten the previous week. So let me just preface this by saying that. The first match was Mark Andrews against Tony Nese. Andrews hit a shooting star press for the win, and in my opinion, along with the rest of his offense, the move looked weak as hell. When I think of all the small wrestlers over the years, they all had hard-hitting offense and in many cases big physiques. Daniel Bryan isn't huge, but you can believe he could kick someone's chin out of place. Rey Mysterio is short, but he has always been very muscular. Same applies to Neville. Can you take this guy's offense seriously? I'm struggling to suspend my disbelief, and if I was Tony Nese, I would not lay down for a man of that size. If I was Mark Andrews, I would take my job more seriously and bulk up. What do you think? Now, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of divided opinion on this. I can't wait to see these comments. But first of all, the idea that if I'm Tony Nese, I'm going to go to my boss and say, hey, I'm not losing to this guy because he's smaller than me is completely ridiculous. That is absolutely stupid, or would be absolutely stupid for him to do, and I would fire him on the spot. Who the hell is Tony Nese to come to me and tell me who he's going to lose to and not lose to? Your boss tells you to lose, you lose. Plain and simple. That's it. Unless you have creative control built into your contract, the way Bret Hart did. That's what makes that whole situation so complicated. I don't think Tony Nese has creative control over his finishes. So, no, if Tony Nese is told to lose, you lose. And as far as suspending your disbelief with a guy like Mark Andrews, I will say that Andrews does not strike me as being a terribly intimidating person. And there are smaller guys, like you said, who are like muscular looking, who do look like they could kick your ass, even though they may only be, 5'5" or something, or 5'8" or whatever. Not that 5'8" is short; that's more average size. But there are some small guys, and Andrews is a guy who's not only small, but he looks, like he couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag. I'm not saying that to offend the guy. I'm just saying he does come across, on a roster that has guys like Buddy Murphy and Tony Nese. He does not come across as intimidating at all. And I can understand it being, hard for somebody to suspend their disbelief with a guy like that. I don't think this guy is trolling. I think he's being honest, and I think that that's a valid point for him to make. Maybe that has a lot to do with why 205 Live hasn't gotten the traction that they had hoped it would get. I'm sure the booking, when Vince had his hand in it, had a lot to do with that as well. But maybe when you have a show full of nothing but small guys, some of whom look the way that Andrews looks, maybe it's just hard for people to get into that. It's possible. There could be more people like this who see Andrews in there with a guy like Tony Nese, beating him, and they just look at it and go, man, that's so fake. Like my suspension of disbelief can only go so far. I can't take this guy seriously. Okay, well, you know what? He's not wrong. But I would also counter by saying this. In WCW, when they had their Cruiserweight division, I was always kind of a fan, not like a huge fan, but I was always a fan of Billy Kidman. I thought Kidman was very talented. Yeah, he had the little stint when he was part of the Flock and he would scratch himself and all that, but he was a talented guy. Now, his shooting star was a freaking mess. Definitely not the cleanest looking shooting star I've ever seen. It looked like he practically killed people sometimes on that move. Almost killed himself a few times. But he was a talented guy who I considered myself to be a fan of. And then one day, I don't remember if this was a Russo idea or what, he feuded with Hulk Hogan. Hogan decided that, brother, I'm going to put this youngster over. And he had a feud, not just a match. He had a feud in 2000 in WCW with Billy Kidman. They even had a pay-per-view match. I can't remember if Kidman won or not. And I looked at that and I said to myself, this is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. Not that Hogan was just this towering, intimidating physical presence, but the idea that Hulk Hogan against Billy Kidman, I mean, I'm all for putting over younger talent, but even that stretched the bounds of believability to me. So I get what this guy is saying. I agree with him to a point. As far as him not taking his job seriously and bulking up, I mean, look, they're bringing in guys of all shapes and sizes right now. Not everybody has to hit the gym and bulk up to be 250 pounds. You know what I mean? So I like the fact that guys don't all look the same. I want thin guys, short guys, fat guys, bald guys. I want different types up and down the roster. I don't want an army of drones, everybody looking the same. But you know, is Andrews the most intimidating guy in the world? No, he's not. And I could see why some people would be turned off by that. So I would love to hear what you guys think about this.